I wanted to talk about the holidays. And gosh, I have all these thoughts right now because of struggling a few minutes ago. But I feel like this is actually in line with what I want to talk about, anyways. The fact that a lot of the times we struggle during the holidays because we want to accomplish things that it's so hard to accomplish, whether it's something as simple as doing a live stream or managing to have all the holiday celebrations go the way that you want and feeling like everybody is having a good time, including yourself. And so, first of all, I remember growing up loving the holidays. It's my favorite, I probably would say it was my favorite time of the year. And I used to, like when I was younger, obviously we were the one getting gifts. But when my daughter was young, I loved giving her gifts. And then the boys came around and it was like, there's even more gifts to give. And obviously the nieces and nephews and all the people that you get the pleasure of buying things for. But then we have that flip side of the coin, which is that can be stressful, right? Like that financial impact of buying all this stuff. So I feel like the holidays have a mixed positive and negative that happens where if money isn't an issue, no big deal. But what about when things like, so we are looking forward to having time off. We're looking forward to getting together with family and friends. We're looking forward to having those amazing meals, which, when I remember just knowing that my grandmother would make certain kinds of desserts, and that was like, whoa, I'm going to be so happy. And obviously there's the gift exchange and the activities that we know we're going to get to do. And all of these things would imply that the holidays are just going to be an amazing interaction, right? That everybody's just going to love the way that things play out. And then we have the other side of the coin, which is that we can't always get the time off that we don't want to get off. Or maybe we don't have money for gifts. Or like, I remember one thing that used to maybe be a little bit of a thing for me, which was that, you come back from the holidays, you get back from, when you go back to school, when we were little, and everybody be like, oh, what'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get? And there was always this hesitation of like hearing what people got. And then it's like, oh, you start comparing what they got to what you got. And I feel like the hard thing is that, first of all, it took it away from being about celebrating, about time together, and it was a competition. And this is me as a kid. So fast forward to us as adults, where we're trying to, first of all, have a good time with our family, but second of all, where we're trying to give our kids a happy holiday. And what happens if I don't have enough money in the bank to take everybody on a terrific family vacation like I did 2 years ago, or I don't have enough money to buy the gifts that I really want to buy? So I remember I used to give Kyler crazy gifts because I have one kid, right? And then like fast forward to there's 3 of them now, and it's like it's hard to just finances become a thing. But even with that, like going beyond it, like Pat and I were talking about how we would love to give our kids experiences now rather than just buying them things that they use for a few months and then they don't care about it, or even worse, that we don't know like what's useful for them anymore. Like it was so easy back in the day to buy gifts, and today it's like so much harder. So I feel like all of this brings me to this other huge thing that I see, which is that there are already a lot of people that struggle with their mental health. And when we turn around and make the holidays about either buying things or going places, or we're ignoring the fact that there are a lot of people who emotionally are struggling, first of all. But second of all, that if I'm stressed about money, or if I'm stressed about people, so let's talk a little bit about what about the people who don't have a lot of people around them? And so therefore, like, getting together with family and friends might be difficult because I don't know if I'm able to travel that distance, or maybe even my family isn't with me. So I might be living far away from my family. I might be in a situation where I've lost loved ones and I don't have people around me. So what happens to those people? My mom used to work in a residence, and I remember going there, and you'd always have those few people that never seem to get visits. And over the holidays, you just kind of think about, like, what about all the people who are elderly and alone, or even you're young but you don't have a large circle of friends? What happens to these people during the holidays? Like, what do you do with your time? What do you do with your... So that can cause us to be very stressed, very anxious, very lonely. The last few years that we've lived, where we had family members so I have family members to visit, but with the rules here in Canada and not being able to visit, the stress and like the holidays did not feel the same, and it was sad. And I can only imagine if I was a person who was struggling with depression or anxiety or other mental health struggles, how I would have felt during that period of time. Possibly, well, luckily I live with people, but what if I was living alone? So I want us to think about the fact that the holidays isn't always an amazing, happy experience for everybody. There are some people that really do struggle. And often we'll hear this idea, well, just fake it till you make it. Fake it, just put on a happy face. And I want you guys to understand, wellness warrior, that you can't fake happy, first of all, because I live in my own head. If I'm not happy, I know I'm not happy. So, like, trying to just walk around and acting like everything is okay, very hard to do. Now, why else would we just act like we're happy? Well, sometimes we're doing it because we don't want the people around us to feel our negative. So we're either trying to protect them from our negative, or we don't want them to ask us a bunch of questions because we're like, what will I say? And maybe we're embarrassed to say that we don't have plans for the holidays. Maybe we don't want them to feel burdened with us, which I hear that so often, that I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to be, I don't want to cause anybody any discomfort. But then you're left without a solution. And sometimes we act happy because if I tell you what's happening with me, and then you're going to ask me all kind of questions, and I don't want you to, I want you to just leave me alone, because I think that if you would just leave me alone, and I'm alone in my issue, that's better for me and that's better for others. Now, I know there are some people that do get energy from being on their own, so they get energy from being in their own environment, and they're good like that. The thing I want you to think about is that it depends on where you are in the process. So if you're happy to have the holidays to yourself, no problem there. But if you're unhappy to have to be alone in the holidays, but then you don't want people to talk to you about it because you think it's going to make you more sad, I want you to consider that maybe talking about it is something that you need to do. I'm going to talk about that a bit later, but just sometimes we try to push away questions because they hurt, even though we need to look at the question to find the answer. So I started to say earlier, we can't fool ourselves, right? I know what's happening in my head. So if I'm not happy with spending the holidays alone, I'm gonna know, I'm gonna feel it. It's not gonna be a happy place for me. And that negative mood, it's gonna be noticed by other people. So the people around me are going to be able to tell that I'm not doing well. The people around me are going to be able to like well, first of all, they're gonna want to help, so they're gonna ask me questions, right? My spouse is gonna ask me questions. My kids are gonna be like, Mom, what's wrong? They're gonna want me to be okay. So like thinking that I can just pretend it all away, I can't fool me, and I can't fool the people who actually care about me and know me, because they're gonna look at me and realize that she's not happy. Now, we think that if we can just distract ourselves, that it's going to make everything okay. So I'm going to play video games, or I'm going to watch television, or maybe I distract myself with a fancy dessert or a lavish meal. But the truth of the matter is, if I'm lonely, or if I'm struggling financially, or if I'm having any kind of problem like physical health or mental health, distracting myself isn't going to change that scenario. And so it doesn't work. And I really need us to understand that if I want to improve my life, then what I need to do is find solutions to real world problems. And that means looking at this stuff and engaging with the problem. So the reason that you're upset is, so whether it's upset about something, finances, or like depressed or anxious, those reasons are real. And for you to move forward in life, you need to look at those things and find true answers for them. Now, I think one of the things that I'm hoping that we're going to get out of this conversation today is that if I engage in life, so if I really push myself to do something different, I will get a different response, right? Like if I start painting, then I'm going to figure out if I like painting. If I go for walks or go to the gym or work out in some way, then I'm going to see if increasing my energy levels helps me to feel more engaged and helps me to feel stronger. And like if that improves my mood, endorphins help us to feel good. So if I'm pushing my body and I'm doing stuff, then that's going to help me to feel good. If I get therapy, which is another valid thing that you guys can do. If you're struggling with depression, anxiety, any other mental health things, getting therapy is one of the best things you can do for yourselves. Even if you're not struggling with depression and anxiety, what if you just have things that you'd like to work out faster than figuring them out on your own? That's still a valid reason to get therapy. I think we need to be more open to the fact that there's more than one way to solve a problem. So if we want to feel better, it's important to tackle these issues head on. And if the thing that's making you unhappy is that you're lonely, finding people is going to be the thing that you need to do. Now, I will admit, finding people is difficult. Because in order to find people, like if I'm past 40 and I don't have people right now, it's probably because I've always struggled to find people. So you're not just going to open the door one day and just like find a bunch of people. You will have to be strategic about it. Another good reason to see a therapist, because those are the kind of things that we help people with. But I want you to think about the fact that if you allow yourself to look at the real thing that's causing you distress, whether it's finance, whether it's overeating and being overweight and having weight issues, whether it's someone passed away, no matter what's in front of you that's a struggle, if I look directly at it and try to find an answer, well, that's the way that we're going to move forward in life. It's okay to try to feel better, but trying to fake better, so showing the world that I'm okay while internally I'm crying, that's not okay. And I really want you to please, like, just understand with me that that's not okay. This fake it till you make it idea that I hear so often, where it's just wake up in the morning and tell yourself you're amazing, and it doesn't work. So I want us to actually find real world solutions. And that means going out there and finding the real things that are going to change your mood. You want to let people in, right? So you want the people that could do something for you in your surroundings, in your moment. You want to find a way to be around people, even if you don't have time off over the holidays. Now, I'm saying that with the idea that you're the kind of person that likes to be around people. If you are the kind of person that needs time to yourself, take the time to yourself. I think that one thing we need to do is respect that we're all different. Now, if you need to be around people, but you don't have people to be around, I really want to encourage you, volunteer. Volunteering is an amazing way to give back to the community and to give to yourself, because you're going to be around people who are going to appreciate that you're there. And the other thing that I'm going to suggest, though, is make a plan for yourself that over the next 12 months that you increase your circle of people so that next year there are people around you. I'm going to add to this. A lot of us have people around us who would let us in. So invite us to Christmas, invite us to New Year's. But because we often hide that we don't have something to do because we don't want to look like losers, they don't know, so they don't invite us. So the other thing I want you to be willing to do is accept invitations and talk about your situation. You cannot solve your situation if you're not talking about what's happening with you. I want you to also think about keeping your routine. So if you happen to have time off, it's good for us to try to somewhat stay on a schedule during the holidays, especially if you're on your own. There's a possibility for a lot of people that what they do is try to avoid the problem, and we can avoid problems by sleeping all day. And we just end up putting our schedule really off, which then creates problems when we're trying to go back to work. So trying to keep your schedule as close to normal as possible, and being careful that we don't allow ourselves to self-soothe with food. This is the other mistake that I see happening a lot over the holiday season. We're not happy with how our day or week is going, depending on how much time you get off. And we spend that time eating fun things, but those fun things end up causing us a lot of distress later. Because even if it's fun to eat in the moment, later on it doesn't feel great. And I think that the other place we could do that mistake is video games, drinking more than usual. There's lots of ways that we can put ourselves in bad situations that then end up playing out negatively going forward. Another thing that we don't often think about, but I want to put out there before I start taking questions, is that when we are upset and stressed and then we don't sleep enough, we eat poorly, we don't do our exercise routines, when we do those things that take us off track, the other problem that happens is that we mess with our immune system, and then we can be ill. And of course, that's going to delay my return to work. So I would then become in a situation where I would have been with people, I'm now not with people because I have to stay out of work or stay away from work longer. So these are things, and I feel like these are things that we can manage if we're thinking about it and we're trying to keep ourselves in the best possible mindset to thrive in life. Now, can I just point out, the holidays isn't purely about gift giving. Gift giving is fun, but I feel like the best gift that we can give ourselves and the people around us is our time, full attention, and encouragement. I wonder about this gift giving idea, and I know it's a commercial thing that we've all been pulled into, but I really want to encourage you to think about doing things differently. Like, what new traditions can we create that take us away from just buying stuff that our kids like for a few minutes and then they don't touch it afterwards, and especially if it's a burden on us to buy it. I really want to encourage you to think about making different choices this year and trying to start new traditions that put your family and yourself in the best possible mindset to really create positive memories going forward. Because those positive memories, I can sit here and tell you with all certainty that when I look back on my history of all the Christmases that I've ever lived, it's not the gifts that I remember. It's all the great moments that we had as families together, the times that we played in the snow, and the snowboarding with my daughter. I think, those holiday seasons that I took when she, especially after she learned to ski and then snowboard, like those were the best holidays for me ever. Before that, my daughter learned to ski when she was, I think, 4 or 5, something like that. 4, I believe, is when you're allowed to start skiing. So we've been skiing from early on. And that was amazing for me because I love activities. And I feel like, yes, I bought her gifts. She always had gifts, and I always got gifts as a kid. But I can honestly tell you, I don't remember them. I don't remember them as much as I remember the times that my family and I spent together. So I just want us to have a happy holiday this year. And in order to do that, we need to plan for it. We need to make sure that if we are in a possible situation where our emotions aren't where we'd like them to be, how are we planning now to set ourselves up well so that we can have the best possibility of being in a good mood? I want to make sure that you understand something. I'm not saying that people aren't allowed to be upset, because we absolutely are. Being upset is normal. What I am saying, though, is there's too often we get in a position where we're upset and we don't make any effort to change that. And in order for things to change, we need to take action. If I'm not taking action, my life will stay exactly as is. And if I don't like how it is today and I take no action, next week it's going to be the same thing. If you want your life to be happier, if you want to have more interactions with people, if you need more time alone, if you want to make more money, if there's things in your life that you want to change, action is necessary for the thing to change. We have 20 some odd days before Christmas. I want to say 21 days before Christmas. And you can make a plan for yourself that gives you the best possibility of feeling good through the holidays. And when we step into January, if I do things well, chances are I would have eaten on plan. I would have continued to exercise or move my body in some way so that I could still feel great. I would have kept my mental health positive. Mental health and physical health coming together, well-being. I would have created the story where in the new year, I'm continuing my positives rather than trying to start positives from scratch. Wellness Warrior, there's lots of videos on the channel that you can jump into that are going to help you to get your health, so your health under control by eating appropriate food. There's a few videos on there that are going to talk about mindset. I linked one in the description.